abandon, ability, able,
abolish, abortion, about,
above, abroad,
absence, absent,
absolute, absolutely, absorb, abstract, absurd,
abundance,
abuse,
abuse,
academic,
academy, accelerate,
accent,
accept,
acceptable,
acceptance,
access,
accessible,
accident,
accidentally, accommodate,
accommodation, accompany,
accomplish, accomplishment, accordance,
according to,
accordingly, account, accountability, accountable, accountant, accumulate, accumulation, accuracy, accurate,
accurately,
accusation,
accuse,
accused,
achieve,
achievement, acid, acknowledge,
acquire,
acquisition, acre, across, act,
action,
activate, activation,
active,
activist,
activity, actor, actress,
actual, actually,
acute, add, adapt, adaptation, add, addiction,
addition, additional,
additionally,
address,
adequate,
adequately,
adhere, adjacent,
adjust, adjustment, administer, administration,
administrative,
administrator, admire, admission,
admit,
adolescent, adopt, adoption,
adult,
advance, advance,
advanced,
advantage,
adventure,
adverse,
advertise,
advertisement,
advertising, advice, advise, advocate, advocate,
aesthetic,
affair,
affect, affection, afford, affordable,
afraid, after,
aftermath,
afternoon, afterwards,
again, against, age,
aged,
agency, agenda,
agent,
aggression, aggressive, ago, agree, agreement, agricultural, agriculture, ahead, aid, aids, aim, air, aircraft, airline, airport, alarm,
albeit,
album,
alcohol, alcoholic,
alert,
alien,
align, alignment, alike,
alive,
all,
all right,
allegation, allege, allegedly, alliance, allocate, allocation,
allow,
allowance, ally,
almost,
alone,
along, alongside,
already, also, alter,
alternative,
although,
altogether,
aluminium,
always,
amateur,
amazed, amazing,
ambassador,
ambition, ambitious,
ambulance, amend, amendment, amid,
among,
amount, amusing, analogy,
analyze, analysis,
analyst, ancestor, anchor,
ancient, angel,
anger,
angle, angry, animal, animation, ankle, anniversary, announce, announcement, annoy,
annoyed, annoying,
annual, annually, anonymous,
another,
answer, anticipate, anxiety, anxious, any more,
anybody, anyone,
anything, anyway, anywhere, apart, apartment, apologize, apology,
apparatus,
apparent,
apparently, appeal,
appealing,
appear,
appearance, appetite, applaud, apple,
applicable,
applicant,
application,
apply, appoint, appointment, appreciate, appreciation, approach, appropriate, appropriately, approval,
approve,
approximately, April,
arbitrary, architect, architectural, architecture, archive,
Area.
arena, arguably,
Argue.
argument,
Arise.
arm, arm, armed, arms,
Army. Around. Around. Arrange.
arrangement, array, arrest, arrest,
Arrival.
arrive, arrow, art,
Article.
articulate,
Artificial.
Artist.
Artistic.
artwork,
As.
ash,
Ashamed.
aside, ask,
Asleep.
aspect, aspiration, aspire, assassination, assault, assault, assemble, assembly, assert, assertion,
Assess.
assessment, asset, assign, assignment, assist, assistance, assistant, assistant,
Associate.
Associated.
Association.
Assume.
assumption, assurance, assure, astonishing, asylum,
At.
athlete,
Atmosphere.
atrocity,
Attach.
attachment,
Attack. Attack.
attain, attempt, attempt,
Attend.
attendance, attention, attention, attitude, attorney, attract, attraction,
Attractive.
attribute, attribute, auction, audience, audio, audit, August,
Ant.
authentic, author,
Authority.
authorize, auto, automatic, automatically, autonomy,
Autumn.
availability, available,
Average. Average. Average.
avoid, await, award, award, aware, awareness, away,
Awful.
awkward, baby, back, 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 backdrop, background, backing, backup, backwards,
Bacteria.
bad,
badge,
Badly.
bag, bail, bake,
Balance. Balance.
balanced, ball,
Ballet.
balloon, ballot, ban, ban,
Banana.
band, bank, banner, bar, bar, bear, barely, bargain, barrel,
Barrier.
base, base,
Baseball.
based, basement,
Basic. Basically. Basis.
basket,
Basketball.
base, bat, bat, bath,
Bathroom.
Battery.
Battle. Battle.
battlefield, bay, bee, beach, beam, bean, bear, air, beast, beat, beat,
Beautiful.
Beauty.
because,
Become.
bed,
Bedroom.
bee, beef, beer, before, 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 beg, begin, beginning, behalf,
Behave. Behavior. Behind. Behind.
being, belief, believe, bell,
Belong.
beloved, below, below, belt, bench, benchmark, bend, bend, beneath, beneficial,
Beneficiary.
benefit, benefit, bent, beside, besides, besides,
best, best, best,
bet, bet, betray,
Better. Better. Better.
Between. Between.
beyond, beyond, bias, bicycle, bid, bid, big, bike, bill, bill, billion, bin, bind, biography, biological, biology, bird,
birth, birthday, biscuit, bishop, bit, bite, bite,
Bitter.
bizarre, black, black, blade, blame, blame, blank, blank, blanket, blast, blast, bleed, blend, blend, bless, blessing, blind, block, block,
Blog.
blonde, blood, blow, blow, blue, blue, board, board, boast, boat,
Body.
boil, bold, bomb, bomb, bombing, bond, bone, bonus, book, book, booking, boom,
boost, boost, boot, border, border, board, boring, born,
Borrow. Boss.
both, bother, bottle, bottom, bottom, bounce, bound, boundary,
Bow. Bow.
bowl, box, boy,
Boyfriend.
brain, branch, brand, brand, brave, breach, breach, bread, break, break, breakdown, breakfast, breakthrough, breast, breath, breathe, breathing, breed, breed, brick, bride, bridge, brief, briefly, bright, brilliant, bring,
broad,
broadband, broadcast, broadcast, broadcaster, broadly, broken,
brother,
brown, brown, browser, brush, brush,
brutal,
bubble,
buck, buddy, budget, buffer, bug, build,
building,
bulk,
bullet, bunch, burden, bureaucracy, burial, burn, burn, burst, bury, bus, bush,
business,
businessman,
busy,
but, butter,
button,
buy, buy, cabin, cabinet,
cable, cafe,
cake,
calculate, calculation, call, calm, calm,
camera,
camp, camp,
campaign, campaign, camping,
campus, can, canal,
cancel, cancer,
candidate,
candle,
cannot,
canvas, cap, capability,
capable, capacity, capital, capital,
capitalism, capitalist,
captain, capture, capture,
car, carbon, card, hair, care,
career, careful, carefully, careless,
cargo, carpet, carriage, carrot,
carry, cartoon,
carve, case, cash, casino, cast,
castle,
casual, casualty,
cat,
catalog, catch, category, cater, cattle, cause, caution, cautious, cave, CD, cease, ceiling, celebrate,
celebration,
celebrity, cell, cemetery, scent, central, center,
century,
ceremony,
certain,
certainly, certainty, certificate, chain, chair, chairman, challenge, challenging, chamber,
champion,
championship, chance, change, channel, chaos,
chapter, character,
characteristic, characterize, charge,
charity,
charm, charming, chart, charter, chase, chat, cheap, cheat, check, cheek, cheer,
cheerful,
cheese, chef,
chemical,
chemistry,
chest,
chicken,
chief, child,
childhood,
chip,
chocolate,
choice, choir, choose, chop, chronic, chunk, church,
cigarette,
cinema, circle,
circuit, circulate, circulation,
circumstance,
sight,
citizen,
citizenship,
city,
civic,
civil,
civilian, civilization, claim, clarify, clarity, clash, class,
classic, classical,
classification, classify,
classroom,
clause, clean, clear,
clearly,
clerk, clever, click, client, cliff, climate, climb, cling, clinic, clinical, clip, clock, close, close, closed,
closely,
closure, cloth, clothes, clothing, cloud, club, clue, cluster, coach, coal, coalition, coast, coastal, coat, cocktail, code, coffee, cognitive, coin, coincide, coincidence, cold, collaborate, collaboration, collapse, colleague, collect, collection, collective, collector, college, collision, colonial, colony,
color,
colored, colorful, column, columnist, combat, combat, combination, combine, come, comedy, comfort, comfort,
comfortable,
comic, comic,
command, command,
commander, commence, comment, comment, commentary, commentator, commerce,
commercial, commercial, commission, commission,
commissioner, commit, commitment,
committee,
commodity,
common, commonly,
communicate,
communication,
communist,
community,
companion,
company,
comparable,
comparative,
compare, comparison,
compassion, compel, compelling, compensate, compensation, compete, competence, competent, competition,
competitive, competitor,
compile,
complain,
complaint, complement, complete, complete,
completely,
completion,
complex,
complex,
complexity, compliance,
complicated,
complication, comply, component, compose, composer, composition, compound, comprehensive, comprise, compromise, compromise, compulsory, compute,
computer,
conceal, concede, conceive, concentrate, concentration, concept, conception,
concern, concern, concerned,
concert, concession,
conclude, conclusion,
concrete, concrete,
condemn,
condition,
conduct, conduct, confer,
conference,
confess, confession,
confidence,
confident, configuration, confine,
confirm,
confirmation, conflict, conflict, confront, confrontation, confuse,
confused, confusing,
confusion,
congratulate,
congregation,
congressional,
connect,
connected,
connection,
conquer,
conscience,
conscious,
consciousness, consecutive,
consensus, consent, consent, consequence, consequently, conservation, conservative, conservative, conserve, consider, considerable, considerably, consideration, consist, consistency, consistent,
consistently,
consolidate, conspiracy, constant, constantly, constituency, constitute, constitution, constitutional, constraint, construct, construction, consult, consultant, consultation,
consume, consumer,
consumption, contact, contact, contain,
container,
contemplate, contemporary, contempt, contend, contender, content, content, contention, contest, contest, context, continent, continually, continue, continuous, contract,
contract, contractor,
contradiction, contrary, contrary, contrast, contrast, contribute, contribution, contributor,
control, control,
controversial, controversy, convenience, convenient, convention, conventional, conversation, conversion, convert, convey, convict, conviction, convince, convinced, convincing, cook, cook,
cooker, cooking,
cool, cool, cooperate, cooperative, coordinate, coordination,
coordinator,
cop, cope, copper, copy, copy, copyright, core, corner, corporate, corporation, correct, correct, correction,
correctly,
correlate, correlation, correspond, correspondence, correspondent, corresponding, corridor,
corrupt, corruption,
cost, cost,
costly,
costume, cottage, cotton,
could,
council,
counselor, counseling, counselor, count, count,
counter, counter, counterpart, countless,
country, countryside, county,
coup,
couple, courage,
course, court, courtesy, cousin,
cover, cover,
coverage,
covered,
how, crack, crack, craft, craft, crash, crash, crawl,
crazy,
cream, cream, create,
creation,
creative,
creativity,
creator,
creature,
credibility, credible, credit, credit, creep, crew, crime,
criminal, criminal, crisis, criterion,
critic,
critical,
critically,
criticism, criticize,
critique, crop, cross, cross,
crowd, crowded, crown, crucial, crude,
cruel,
cruise, cruise, crush, cry, cry, crystal, cue, cult, cult, cultivate, cultural,
culture,
cup,
cupboard,
cure, cure, curiosity, curious,
curly,
currency, current, current, currently, curriculum, curtain, curve, curve, curved, custody, custom, customer, cut, cut, cute, cutting, cycle, cycle, cynical, dad, daily, daily, dairy, dairy, dam, damage, damage, damaging, dance, dance, dancer, dancing, danger, dangerous, dare, dark, dark, darkness,
data, database,
date, date,
daughter,
dawn, day, dead, deadline, deadly, deal, deal, dealer, dear, dear, death, debate, debate,
debris,
debt,
debut,
decade, December,
decent,
decide, decision,
decision making, decisive, deck, declaration,
declare, decline, decline,
decorate,
decoration,
decrease, decrease,
dedicated, dedication, deed, deem, deep, deep,
deeply,
default, defeat, defeat,
defect,
defense, defend,
defender, defensive, deficiency, deficit,
define,
definite,
definitely,
definition, defy,
degree, delay, delay,
delegate, delegation, delete,
deliberate, deliberately,
delicate,
delicious,
delight, delight,
delighted, deliver,
delivery,
demand, demand,
democracy, democratic, demon, demonstrate, demonstration, denial,
denounce,
dense, density, dentist, deny, depart, department, departure, depend, dependence, dependent, depict, deploy,
deployment,
deposit, deposit, depressed, depressing, depression, deprive, depth, deputy, derive, descend, descent, describe, description, desert, desert, deserve,
design, design,
designate, designer, desirable, desire, desire, desk, desktop,
desperate,
desperately,
despite,
destination,
destroy, destruction, destructive, detail, detail,
detailed,
detain, detect, detection, detective, detention, deteriorate, determination, determine, determined, devastate, develop, development, device, devil, devise, devote,
diagnose,
diagnosis, diagram,
dialogue, diamond,
diary,
dictate, dictator, dictionary, die, diet, differ, difference, different, differentiate,
differently,
difficult, difficulty, dig,
digital,
dignity, dilemma, dimension, diminish,
dinner,
dip, diplomat, diplomatic, direct, 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 direction, directly, director, directory, dirt, dirty, disability, disabled,
disadvantage, disagree,
disagreement, disappear, disappoint,
disappointed, disappointing,
disappointment,
disaster,
disastrous, disc, discard, discharge, discipline, disclose, disclosure, discount, discount, discourage, discourse, discover, discovery, discretion, discrimination, discuss, discussion, disease, dish, dishonest, disc, dislike, dislike,
dismiss,
dismissal, disorder,
displace,
display, display,
disposal, dispose, dispute, dispute, disrupt, disruption, dissolve,
Distance.
distant, distinct, distinction, distinctive, distinguish, distort, distract, distress, distress,
distribute,
distribution, district, disturb, disturbing, dive, dive,
diverse, diversity, divert,
Divide. Divide.
divine,
Division.
divorce, divorce, divorced,
do,
Doctor.
doctrine, document, document,
documentary, documentation, dog,
Dollar.
domain,
Domestic.
dominance, dominant, dominate,
donate,
donation, donor, door, dose, dot,
Double. 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 Double.
doubt, doubt, down, down,
Download.
download, downstairs, downstairs,
Downtown.
downtown,
Downtown.
downwards,
Dozen. Dozen.
draft, draft, drag, drain, drama,
Dramatic.
dramatically, draw, drawing, dream, dream, dress, dress, dressed, drift, drink, drink, drive, drive,
Driver.
driving, driving, drop, drop, drought, drown, drug, drum, drunk, dry, dry, dual, dub, do, dull, dumb, dump, duo, duration, during, dust, duty, DVD, dynamic, dynamic, each, eager, ear, early, early, earn, earnings, earth, earthquake, ease, easily, east, eastern, easy,
Eat. Echo. Echo.
ecological, economic, economics,
Economist. Economy. Edge. Edit.
Edition.
Editor. Editorial. Educate. Educated. Education. Educational. Educator. Effect.
Effective. Effectively.
effectiveness,
Efficiency. Efficient. Efficiently. Effort. Egg. Ego. 8. 18. 80.
either, elaborate,
Elbow. Elderly. Elect. Election. Electoral. Electric.
Electrical. Electricity. Electronic.
Electronics. Elegant. Element.
elementary,
Elephant. Elevate. 11. Eligible. Eliminate.
elite,
Else. Elsewhere.
Email. Email.
Embark. Embarrassed. Embarrassing. Embarrassment. Embassy. Embed. Embody. Embrace.
emerge, emergence, emergency,
Emission. Emotion. Emotional. Emotionally. Emphasis. Emphasize. Empire. Empirical.
Employ.
employee,
Employer. Employment.
empower,
Empty. Empty. Enable.
enact, encompass,
Encounter. Encounter. Encourage.
encouragement, encouraging, end, endeavor,
Ending.
endless, endorse, endorsement, endure,
Enemy. Energy.
enforce, enforcement, engage,
Engaged.
engagement, engaging,
Engine. Engineer.
engineering,
Enhance.
enjoy, enjoyable, enormous, enough, inquire,
Inquiry.
enrich, enroll, ensue, ensure,
Enter.
enterprise,
Entertain.
entertaining, entertainment,
Enthusiasm.
enthusiast,
Enthusiastic. Entire. Entirely.
entitle, entity,
Entrance.
entrepreneur,
Entry.
envelope, environment, environmental,
epidemic,
Episode.
equal, equality,
Equally.
equation, equip, equipment, equivalent,
era,
erect,
Error.
erupt, escalate,
Escape. Escape.
especially, essay, essence,
Essential.
essentially,
Establish.
establishment, estate, estimate, estimate, eternal, ethic,
Ethical.
ethnic, euro, evacuate, evaluate, evaluation, even, evening, event, eventually,
Ever. Every.
everybody, every day, everyone, everything, everywhere, evidence, evident, evil, evoke, evolution, evolutionary, evolve, exact, exactly, exaggerate, exam,
Examination.
examine,
Example.
exceed, excellence, excellent, accept, exception, exceptional, excess, excessive, exchange, excited, excitement,
Exciting.
exclude, exclusion, exclusive,
exclusively,
excuse, excuse, execute, execution, executive, exercise, exert, exhibit,
Exhibition.
exile, exist, existence, exit, exotic, expand, expansion, expect, expectation, expected, expedition, expenditure,
Expense.
expensive, experience, experienced,
experiment,
experimental, expert, expertise, expire,
Explain.
explanation, explicit,
explicitly,
explode, exploit, exploitation, exploration, explore, explosion, explosive, export, expose, exposure,
Express.
expression,
Extend.
extension, extensive,
extensively,
extent, external, extra, extract, extraordinary, extreme, extremely, extremist, fabric, fabulous, face,
facilitate,
Facility.
fact, faction,
Factor.
factory,
faculty, fade, fail, failed,
Failure.
fair,
Fairly.
fairness, faith, fake, fall, false, fame, familiar,
family,
Famous.
fan,
Fancy. Fantastic.
fantasy, far, fair, farm,
Farmer. Farming. Fascinating. Fashion. Fashionable.
fast,
Fasten.
fat, fatal, fate,
Father.
fault,
Favor.
favorable, favorite,
fear, feet,
Feather. Feature.
February,
federal, feed,
Feedback.
feel,
Feeling. Fellow. Female.
feminist, fence,
Festival.
fever, few, fiber,
Fiction.
field, fierce,
15.
fifth,
50.
fight,
fighting,
Figure.
file, fill, film,
filmmaker,
filter,
Final. Finally.
finance, financial, find, finding, fine, finger, finish, fire, firearm, firefighter, firework, firm, firmly, firstly, fish, fishing, fit, fitness, five, fixed, fixture, flag, flame, flash, flat, flavor, flaw, flawed, flee, fleet, flesh, flexibility,
Flexible.
flight, float, flood, floor, flower, flourish, flow, flower, flu, fluid, fly,
Flying.
focus,
fold, folding, folk, follow, following, fond, food, fool, foot, footage,
Football.
fur,
forbid, force, force, forecast, forecast,
foreign, foreigner, forest,
forever, forge, forget, forgive, fork, form, form, formal, format, formation, former, formerly, formula, formulate, forth,
forthcoming,
fortunate, fortunately,
fortune,
40, forum, forward, forward, fossil,
foster,
found, foundation, founder, 4, 14, fourth, fraction, fragile, fragment, frame, frame, framework, franchise, frankly, fraud, free, free, free,
freedom,
freely, freeze,
frequency,
frequent, frequently, fresh,
Friday,
fridge, friend, friendly,
friendship, frighten,
frightened,
frightening, frog, from,
front, front,
frozen,
fruit,
frustrated,
frustrating, frustration, fry,
fuel, fuel,
fulfill, full, full time,
fully,
fun, fun,
function, function,
functional, fund, fund,
fundamental,
fundamentally,
funding,
fundraising,
funeral,
funny,
fur, furious,
furniture, further, further, furthermore, future, future,
gain, gain, gallery, gallon, gambling, game, gaming, gang, gap,
garage,
garden, gas, gate,
gather,
gathering, gay, gaze, gaze, gear, gender,
gene,
general, generally,
generate, generation, generic, generous, genetic, genius, genocide, genre,
gentle, gentleman,
genuine,
genuinely,
geography,
gesture,
get, ghost, giant, giant, gift, gig,
girl, girlfriend, give, glad, glance, glance, glass, glimpse,
global,
globalization, globe, glorious, glory, glove, go, go, goal, God, gold, gold, golden, golf, good, good, goodbye, goodbye, goodness, goods, gorgeous, govern, governance, government, governor, grab, grace, grade, grade, gradually, graduate, graduate, grain, grand, grandfather, grandmother, grandparent, grant, grant, graphic, graphics, grasp, grasp, grass, grateful,
grave, grave, gravity, great, greatly, green, green, greenhouse, greet, gray, gray, grid, grief, grin, grin, grind, grip, grip,
grocery,
gross, ground, group, grow, growth, guarantee, guarantee, guard, guard, gorilla, guess, guess, guest, guidance, guide, guide, guideline, guilt,
guilty, guitar,
gun, gut, guy, gym, habit, habitat, hail, hair, half, 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 halfway, hall, halt, halt,
hand, hand, handful,
handle, handle,
handling, handy, hang, happen,
happily,
happiness,
happy,
harassment, harbor, hard, hard, hardly, hardware, harm, harm, harmful, harmony, harsh, harvest, harvest, hat, hate, hate, hatred, haunt, have, have to, hazard, head, head, headache, headline, headquarters, heel, health, healthcare, healthy, hear,
hearing,
heart, heat, heat, heating,
heaven,
heavily, heavy, heel, height, heighten, helicopter, hell, hello, hello, helmet, help, help, helpful,
hence,
her,
herb, here, heritage,
hero,
hers,
herself,
hesitate,
Hey, high, hidden, hide, hierarchy, high, 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 high profile, highlight, highlight, highly, highway, hilarious, hill,
him, himself,
hint, hint, hip, higher, higher,
his,
historian,
historic, historical, history,
hit, hit, hobby, hockey, hold, hold, whole, holiday, hollow, holy, home, 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 homeland, homeless, homework,
honest, honesty, honor, honor, hook, hook, hope, hope, hopeful, hopefully, horizon, horn,
horrible, horror,
horse,
hospital,
host, host, hostage,
hostile,
hostility, hot,
hotel, hour,
house, house,
household,
housing,
how,
however,
huge,
human, human,
humanitarian, humanity, humble,
humorous, humor, hundred,
hunger,
hungry,
hunt, hunt,
hunting, hurricane,
hurry, hurry, hurt, hurt, hurt,
husband,
hydrogen, hypothesis, ice,
ice cream,
icon, ID,
idea, ideal, ideal,
identical, identification,
identify,
identity, ideological, ideology,
idiot, if, ignorance,
ignore,
ill, illegal, illness, illusion, illustrate,
illustration,
image, imagery, imaginary, imagination, imagine, immediate, immediately, immense, immigrant, immigration, imminent, immune, impact, impact, impatient, implement, implementation, implication, imply, import, import, importance, important, impose, impossible, impress, impressed, impression, impressive, imprison, imprisonment, improve, improvement, inability, inadequate, inappropriate, incentive, inch, incidence, incident, inclined,
include, included,
including, inclusion, income, incorporate, incorrect, increase, increase, increasingly, incredible, incredibly,
incur, indeed, independence, independent, index, indicate, indication, indicator, indictment, indigenous,
indirect,
individual, individual, indoor,
indoors,
induce, indulge, industrial, industry, inequality, inevitable, inevitably, infamous, infant, infect,
infection,
infer, inflation, inflict, influence, influence, influential, info, inform, informal, information, infrastructure, ingredient, inhabitant,
inherent,
inherit, inhibit, initial, initially, initiate, initiative, inject, injection, injure, injured, injury, injustice, ink, inmate, inner, innocent, innovation, innovative, input,
inquiry,
insect, insert, insertion,
inside, 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 inside,
insider,
insight,
insist, inspect, inspection, inspector, inspiration,
inspire,
install, installation,
instance,
instant, instantly,
instead,
instinct,
institute, institution,
institutional, instruct,
instruction, instructor,
instrument, instrumental, insufficient, insult, insult,
insurance,
intact, intake,
integral,
integrate, integrated, integration, integrity, intellectual, intellectual,
intelligence,
intelligent,
intend, intended, intense,
intensify, intensity, intensive, intent,
intention,
interact, interaction, interactive,
interest, interest, interested, interesting,
interface, interfere, interference, interim, interior, interior, intermediate,
internal, international,
internet, interpret, interpretation, interrupt, interval, intervene, intervention,
interview, interview,
intimate,
Into.
intriguing,
introduce, introduction,
invade,
Invasion. Invent.
invention,
Invest. Investigate.
investigation,
Investigator. Investment. Investor. Invisible. Invitation. Invite. Invoke. Involve. Involved. Involvement.
iron, iron,
Ironic. Ironically. Irony. Irrelevant. Island. Isolate. Isolated. Isolation.
issue, issue,
IT. It. Item. Its. Itself. Jacket. Jail. Jail. Jam.
January,
Jazz.
jeans, jet, jewelry, job, join, joint, joint, joke, joke, journal, journalism, journalist, journey, joy, judge, judge, judgment, judicial, juice, July, jump, jump, junction, June,
junior,
jurisdiction, jury, just, justice, justification,
justify,
keen, keep,
key, key, key,
keyboard,
kick, kick, kid, kidnap, kidney, kill,
killing,
Kilometer.
kind, king, kingdom, kiss, kiss, kit,
kitchen,
knee, knife, knock, no,
knowledge,
lab,
label, label, laboratory, labor,
lack, lad,
Ladder. Lady. Lake. Lamp. Land. Land. Landing. Landlord. Landmark. Landscape. Lane. Language. Lap. Laptop. Large.
large scale,
Largely. Laser. Last. 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 Late. Late. Lately. Later. Later. Latest. Latest. Ladder. Ladder. Laugh. Laugh. Laughter. Launch. Launch. Law. Lawn. Lawsuit. Lawyer. Lay. Layer. Layout. Lazy. Lead. Lead. Leader. Leadership.
leading,
Leaf. Leaflet. League. Leak. Leak. Lean. Leap. Leap. Learn. Learning. Least. 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 Leather. Leave. Leave. Lecture. Lecture. Left. 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 Leg. Legacy. Legal. Legend. Legendary. Legislation. Legislative. Legislature. Legitimate. Leisure.
lemon,
Lend. Length. Lengthy. Lens. Lesbian. Less. 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 Lesser.
lesson,
Let. Lethal.
letter, level, level, level,
liable,
Liberal. Liberal.
liberation, liberty, library,
license,
license, lie, life,
Lifelong.
lifestyle,
lifetime, lift, light, lighting, like, likelihood,
likely,
likewise, limb, limit, limitation,
limited,
line,
lineup,
linear, linger, link,
lion,
lip,
liquid, liquid,
list, listen, listener, listing, literacy, literally, literary,
literature,
litter,
Little. 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 Little.
live, live, lively, liver,
living, living,
load, loan, lobby,
local, local,
locate,
Located.
location,
lock, log, logic,
logical,
logo,
lonely,
Long. Long. Long-standing. Long-term. Long-term. Long time.
look, loom, loop, loose, lord, lorry, lose,
Loss. Lost.
lot, lottery, loud, loud, loudly, love, love, lovely, low, 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 lower, loyal, loyalty, luck, lucky, lunch, lung,
luxury, luxury,
lyric, machine, machinery, mad,
magazine,
magic, magic, magical, magistrate, magnetic, magnificent, magnitude,
Male, male, main,
mainland,
Mainly.
mainstream, mainstream,
Maintain.
maintenance,
Major.
majority,
make,
makeup,
making, male, male, mall, man,
Manage.
management,
Manager.
mandate, mandatory, manifest, manipulate, manipulation,
Manner.
manufacture, manufacturing, manuscript,
Many. Many.
map, map, marathon, march, 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 margin, marginal, marine, mark, mark, marker, market, market,
marketing,
marketplace, marriage,
Married. Marry.
marshal, mask, mass, mass, massacre,
Massive. Master. Master.
match, match,
Matching.
mate, mate,
Material. Material.
mathematical,
mathematics, maths, matter, matter, mature, mature, maximize,
Maximum. Maximum.
may,
Maybe.
mayor, me, meal, mean,
Meaning.
meaningful, means, meantime, meanwhile, measure, measure, measurement, meet, mechanic, mechanical, mechanism, metal, media,
Medical.
medication, medicine, medieval, meditation, medium, medium, meet, meeting, melody, melt, member, membership, memo, memoir, memorable, memorial, memory, mental, mention, mention, mentor, menu, merchant, mercy, mere, merely, merge, merger, merit, mess, message, metal, metaphor, method, methodology, meter,
Middle. Middle.
midnight, midst, might, migration, mild, mile, militant, militant,
Military. Military.
militia, milk, mill,
Million.
mind, mind, mine, mine, minor,
Mineral.
minimal, minimize,
Minimum. Minimum.
mining, minister, ministry,
Minor.
minority,
minute, minute, miracle,
Mirror.
miserable,
misery, misleading, miss, missile,
Missing. Mission. Mistake. Mistake.
mix, mix, mixed, mixture, mob,
Mobile. Mobile.
mobility, mobilize, mode,
Model. Model.
moderate,
Modern.
modest, modification, modify, moment,
momentum, Monday,
money, monitor, monitor, monk, monkey, monopoly, monster, month, monthly, monument, mood, moon,
moral, moral,
morality, more, 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 moreover, morning, mortgage, mosque, most, 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 mostly, mother, motion, motivate, motivation, motive,
Motor. Motor.
motorcycle, motorist, mount,
Mountain.
mouse, mouth,
move, move, movement, movie, moving, much, 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 mud,
Multiple. Multiply.
mum, municipal,
Murder. Murder. Muscle. Museum. Music. Musical. Musical. Musician.
must,
mutual, my,
Myself. Mysterious. Mystery.
myth, nail, naked, name, name, namely,
narrative, narrative,
Narrow. Narrow.
nasty,
Nation. National. National.
nationwide,
native, native, natural, naturally,
nature, naval, navigation, near, near, near,
nearby, nearby,
nearly,
neat, necessarily, necessary, necessity, neck, need, need, need,
needle,
negative, negative, neglect, neglect, negotiate, negotiation, neighbor, neighborhood, neighboring,
neither, neither, neither,
nerve, nervous, nest, net, net, network, neutral, never, nevertheless, new, newly, news, newsletter, newspaper, next, 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 next to, nice,
niche,
night, nightmare, 9, 19, 90, no, no, no one, noble,
nobody,
nod, noise, noisy, nominate, nomination, nominee, nonprofit, none, nonetheless,
nonsense, noon, nor, norm, normal, normal, normally, north, 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 northern, nose, not, notable, notably, note, note, notebook, nothing, notice, notice, notify, notion, notorious, novel, novel, novelist, November, now, nowadays, nowhere, nuclear,
number, number,
numerous, nurse, nursery, nursery, nut, nutrition, a clock, obesity, obey, object, object, objection, objective, objective, obligation, oblige, observation, observe, observer, obsess, obsession, obstacle, obtain, obvious, obviously,
occasion,
occasional, occasionally, occupation, occupy,
occur,
occurrence, ocean, October,
Odd. Odds.
of, off,
offense, offend,
Offender.
offensive,
offer, offering, office, officer,
official, official,
offspring, often,
O. Oil. Okay. 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 Old.
old-fashioned,
on,
Once. Once. One.
ongoing,
Onion.
online,
only,
onto,
Open. Opening. Openly.
opera,
Operate.
operation,
Operational. Operator.
opinion,
Opponent.
opportunity, oppose, opposed,
Opposite. Opposite.
opposition,
Opt. Optical. Optimism. Optimistic.
option,
or,
Oral.
orange,
Orchestra.
order,
ordinary,
organ,
Organic. Organization. Organizational.
organize, organized,
Organizer. Orientation.
origin, original, originally,
Originate.
other, otherwise,
ought,
ours, ourselves,
out, outbreak, outcome,
outdoor,
outdoors, outer, outfit, outing,
outlet,
outline,
outlook, output, outrage, outside,
outsider,
outstanding, oven, overall, overcome, overlook, overly, overnight, overseas, oversee, overturn, overwhelm, overwhelming, own, owner, ownership, oxygen, pace, pack, package, packet, pad, page, pain, painful, paint, painter,
painting,
pear,
palace,
pale, palm,
Pan.
panel, panic, pants,
paper,
parade, paragraph, parallel, parameter, parent, parental, parish, park, parking, parliament, parliamentary, part,
Part-time.
partial, partially, participant, participate, participation, particular, particularly, partly, partner, partnership, party, pass, pass,
passage,
passenger, passing, passion, passionate, passive, passport, password, past, 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 pastor, patch, patent, path, pathway, patience, patient, patient, patrol, patrol,
patron,
pattern,
pause, pause, pay, pay, payment, peace, peaceful, peak, peasant, peculiar, peer, pen, penalty, pencil,
penny, pension, people, pepper,
percent, 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 perceive,
percentage,
perception, perfect,
perfectly, perform, performance, perhaps, period,
permanent, permanently,
permission,
permit, permit, persist, persistent,
person, personal, personality, personally,
personnel,
perspective, persuade,
pet, petition, petrol, phase,
phenomenon,
philosopher, philosophical, philosophy, phone, phone, photo,
photograph, photograph,
photographer, photography, phrase, physical, physician,
physics,
piano, pick, pick,
picture, picture,
piece, pig, pile, pile, pill, pilot, pin, pin, pink, pink, pioneer, pioneer, pipe, pipeline, pirate, pit, pitch, pity, place, place, placement,
plane, plan, plan, plane, planet,
planning,
plant, plant,
plastic, plastic,
plate, platform, play, play,
player,
plea, plead, pleasant, please, please, pleased, pleasure, pledge, pledge, plenty, plot, plot, plug, plug, plunge, plus, 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 pocket, poem, poet, poetry, point, point, pointed, poison, poison, poisonous, pole, police, policeman, policy, polite, political, politician, politics, pole,
pollution,
pond, pool, poor, pop, 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 popular, popularity, population,
port, portfolio, portion, portrait, portray, pose,
position, position,
positive, positive,
possess, possession, possibility,
possible, possibly, post, post,
post-war,
poster,
postpone, hot,
potato,
potential, potential,
potentially, pound, pour,
poverty, powder, power, power, powerful, practical, practice,
practice, practitioner, praise, praise, pray, prayer, preach, proceed, precedent, precious, precise, precisely, precision, predator, predecessor, predict, predictable,
prediction,
predominantly,
prefer,
preference,
pregnancy, pregnant, prejudice, preliminary,
premier,
premise, premium,
preparation, prepare, prepared,
prescribe, prescription,
presence,
present, 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 presentation, presently, preservation,
preserve,
preside, presidency,
president,
presidential, press, press,
pressure,
prestigious,
presumably, presume,
pretend,
pretty, pretty,
prevail, prevalence, prevent, prevention, previous,
previously,
pray, price, price, pride, priest, primarily,
primary,
prime, prince,
princess,
principal, principal,
principle,
print, print,
printer,
printing, prior,
priority,
prison, prisoner, privacy,
private, privatization,
privilege,
prize, probability, probable, probably, probe, probe, problem, problematic,
procedure,
proceed, proceeding,
proceeds, process, process,
processing,
processor,
proclaim,
produce, produce, producer, product, production, productive,
productivity,
Profession. Professional. Professional. Professor. Profile.
profit, profitable, profound, program, 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 programming,
progress,
Progress.
progressive,
prohibit, project,
project, projection, prominent, promise, promise, promising, promote, promotion, prompt,
Pronounce.
pronounced, proof, propaganda, proper, properly, property, proportion,
Proposal. Propose.
proposition, prosecute, prosecution, prosecutor, prospect, perspective, prosperity, protect,
Protection.
protective, protein,
protest, protest, protester, protocol, proud, prove, provide, province, provincial, provision, provoke, psychiatric, psychological, psychologist, psychology, pub, public, public,
Publication.
publicity, publish, publishing, pull, pull, pulse, pump, pump, punch, punch, punish, punishment, punk, pupil, purchase, purchase, pure, purely,
Purple. Purple. Purpose.
pursue, pursuit, push, push, put, puzzle,
Qualification. Qualified.
qualify,
quality, quantity,
Quarter.
queen,
query,
quest,
Question. Question.
questionnaire, queue, quick,
Quickly.
quiet,
Quietly.
quit, quite, quota,
Quotation.
quote, race, racial,
Racing.
racism, racist, radar, radiation, radical,
Radio.
rage, raid, rail,
Railway.
rain, raise, rally,
random, range, range, rank, ranking, rape, rapid,
Rapidly.
rare,
Rarely.
rat, rate, rather, rating,
ratio,
rational, raw, ray, reach, react,
Reaction.
read, reader, readily, reading, ready,
real,
Realistic.
reality, realization, realize,
really,
realm, rear,
Reason.
reasonable, reasonably,
reasoning, reassure, rebel, rebellion, rebuild,
recall,
receipt, receive, receiver, recent,
Recently. Reception.
recession,
Recipe.
recipient, reckon, recognition,
Recognize.
recommend, recommendation, reconstruction, record, record, recording, recount, recover, recovery, recruit,
recruitment,
recycle, red, reduce,
Reduction.
refer, referee, reference, referendum, reflect, reflection, reform, refuge, refugee, refusal,
Refuse.
regain, regard, regardless, regime, region,
Regional.
register, registration, regret,
Regular.
regularly, regulate,
Regulation.
regulator, regulatory, rehabilitation, reign, reinforce, reject, rejection, relate, related,
Relation.
relationship,
Relative.
relatively, relax, relaxed,
Relaxing.
release, relevance, relevant, reliability,
Reliable.
relief, relieved,
Religion.
religious, reluctant, rely, remain, remainder, remains, remark, remarkable, remarkably, remedy, remember,
Remind.
reminder, remote, removal, remove, render, renew, renowned, rent, rental,
Repair.
repeat, repeated, replace, replacement, reply, reply, report, report, reportedly, reporter, reporting, represent, representation,
representative, representative,
reproduce, reproduction, republic, reputation, request, request,
require,
requirement,
rescue, rescue,
research, research, researcher,
resemble,
reservation, reserve, reserve,
reside,
residence, resident, resident,
residential, residue, resign, resignation, resist, resistance, resolution, resolve, resort,
resource,
respect, respect, respective, respectively, respond,
response, responsibility, responsible,
rest, rest,
restaurant,
restoration, restore, restraint, restrict, restriction, result, result, resume, retail,
retain, retire, retired,
retirement, retreat, retreat, retrieve,
return, return, reveal,
revelation, revenge, revenue, reverse, reverse, reverse,
review, review, revise,
revision, revival, revive,
revolution,
revolutionary, reward, reward, rhetoric,
rhythm,
rice, rich, rid, ride, ride, ridiculous, rifle, right, 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 ring, ring, riot, rip,
rise, rise, risk, risk, risky, ritual, rival, rival,
river,
road, rob, robbery, robot,
robust,
rock, rock, rocket, rod, roll, roll, roll,
romance,
romantic,
roof, room, root,
rope, rose, rotate, rotation, rough, roughly, round, 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 round,
root,
routine, routine, row, royal, rub, rubber, rubber, rubbish, rude,
rugby,
ruin, ruin, rule, rule, ruling, rumor, run, run,
runner, running,
rural, rush, rush, sack, sacred, sacrifice, sacrifice, sad, sadly, safe,
safety,
sail, sail,
sailing,
sailor, saint, sake,
salad,
salary, sail,
salt, same, 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 sample, sample, sanction, sand, sandwich, satellite, satisfaction,
satisfied, satisfy,
Saturday, sauce, save, saving, say, scale, scan, scandal, scare, scare,
scared,
scary,
scattered, scenario, scene, skeptical, schedule, schedule, scheme, scholar, scholarship, school,
science,
scientific, scientist, scope, score, score,
scratch, scratch, scream, scream, screen, screen, screening, screw, screw, script, scrutiny,
sculpture,
see, seal, seal, search, search,
season,
seat, seat,
second, 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 second,
secondary,
secondly,
secret, secret,
secretary, section, sector,
secular,
secure, secure,
security,
see, seed, seek, seeker, seem, seemingly, segment, seize, seldom, select,
selection,
selective, self, sell, seminar, senator, send, senior, sensation, sense, sense,
sensible, sensitive,
sensitivity,
sentence, sentence,
sentiment, separate, separate, separation,
September, sequence,
serial,
series,
serious,
seriously,
servant, serve,
service, session,
set, set, set up,
setting,
settle,
settlement,
settler,
7.
17. 70. Several. Several.
Severe,
severely,
sex, sexual, sexuality, sexy, shade, shadow, shake, shake,
shul,
shallow, shame, shape, shape, shaped, share, share, shareholder, sharp, shatter, she, shed, sheep, shear, sheet, shelf, shell,
Shelter. Shelter.
shift, shift, shine,
Shiny.
ship, ship, shipping, shirt, shock, shock, shocked, shocking, shoe, shoot, shoot,
Shooting.
shop, shop, shopping, shore, short, short term, shortage, shortly, shot,
should,
shoulder, shout, shout, show, show, shower, shrink, shrug, shut, shut, shy, sibling, sick, side,
sigh, sigh, sight, sign, sign,
Signal. Signal.
signature, significance, significant, significantly,
Silence.
silent, silk,
Silly.
silver, silver, similar, similarity, similarly, simple, simply, simulate, simulation,
simultaneously,
sin, since, sincere, sing, singer, singing, single, single, sink, sir, sister, sit, sight, situated, situation, 6, 16, 60, size, sketch, ski, 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 skiing, skill, skilled, skin, skip, skirt, skull, sky, slam, slap, slash, slave, slavery, sleep, sleep, slice, slice, slide, slide, slight, slightly, slip, slogan, slope, slope, slot, slow, slow, slowly, small,
smart,
smartphone,
smash, smell, smell, smile, smile, smoke, smoke,
Smoking.
smooth, snake, snap, snow, snow, sew, sew,
so-called,
soak, soap, sore,
Soccer.
social, socialist,
Society.
sock,
soft,
Software.
soil,
Solar. Soldier.
soul, solely, solicitor, solid, solid, solidarity, solo, solo,
Solution.
solve, some, somebody,
somehow,
Someone. Something.
sometime,
Sometimes.
somewhat,
Somewhere. Somewhere.
sun,
song,
soon, sophisticated,
sorry, sorry,
sort, sort, soul, sound, 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 soup, source, south, south, south,
Southern.
sovereignty,
space,
spam, span, span, spare, spare, spark, speak, speaker, special, specialist, specialist, specialize, specialized,
species,
specific, specifically, specification, specify, specimen, spectacle, spectacular, spectator, spectrum, speculate, speculation, speech, speed, speed, spell, spell, spelling, spend,
Spending.
sphere, spice, spicy, spider, spill, spin, spin, spine, spirit, spiritual, spite, split, split, spoil, spoken, spokesman, spokesperson, spokeswoman, sponsor, sponsor, sponsorship, spoon, sport, sporting, spot, spot, spotlight, spouse, spread, spread, spring, spring, spy, spy, squad, square, square, squeeze, stab, stability, stabilize, stable, stadium, staff, stage, stage, stare, stake,
stall, stamp, stance, stand, stand,
Standard. Standard.
standing, star, star, stare, stark, start, start, starve, state, 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 statement,
Station. Statistic.
statistical, statue, status, stay, stay, steadily, steady, steel, steam, steel, steep, steer, stem, stem, step, step, stereotype, stick, stick, sticky, stiff, still, still, stimulate, stimulus, stir, stock, stomach, stone, stop, stop, storage, store, store, storm, story, straight, straight, straightforward, strain, strand, strange, stranger, strategic, strategy, stream, street, strength, strengthen, stress, stress, stretch, stretch,
strict, strictly, strike, strike, striking, string, strip, strip, strive, stroke, strong,
strongly,
structural,
Structure. Structure. Struggle. Struggle.
student,
Studio. Study. Study.
stuff, stuff, stumble, stun, stunning, stupid, style,
subject, subject,
submission, submit, subscriber, subscription, subsequent,
subsequently,
subsidy,
Substance.
substantial, substantially, substitute, substitute, substitution, subtle, suburb, suburban,
Succeed. Success. Successful. Successfully.
succession, successive, successor, such, such, suck,
Sudden.
suddenly,
sue,
Suffer.
suffering,
sufficient,
sufficiently,
Sugar.
suggest, suggestion,
suicide, suit, suit,
Suitable.
sweet, some,
Summarize. Summary. Summer.
summit, sun,
Sunday,
super, superb,
superior, supermarket, supervise, supervision, supervisor, supplement, supplement, supply, supply, support, support, supporter, supportive, suppose, supposedly, suppress,
supreme, sure, sure, surely,
surface, surge, surge, surgeon, surgery, surgical,
surplus, surprise, surprise, surprised, surprising,
surrender, surround, surrounding, surveillance, survey,
survey,
survival, survive, survivor, suspect, suspect, suspend, suspension, suspicion, suspicious, sustain, sustainable, swallow, swear, sweater, sweep, sweet, sweet, swim, swim,
Swimming.
swing, swing, switch, switch, sword, symbol, symbolic, sympathetic, sympathy,
Symptom.
syndrome, synthesis, system, systematic, t-shirt, table, tablet, tackle, tackle, tactic, tactical, tag, tag, tail, take,
tail, talent,
Talented.
talk, talk, tall, tank, tap, tap, tape, target, target, task, haste, taste, tax, tax,
Taxi.
taxpayer, teach, teacher,
Teaching.
team, tear, hair,
Technical. Technique.
technological, technology,
Teenage. Teenager.
teens,
Telephone. Telephone.
television, tell, temperature, temple, temporarily, temporary, tempt, tenant, tend, tendency, tender,
Tennis.
tension, tent, tenure, term, terminal, terminate, terms, terrain, terrible, terribly, terrific, terrify,
territory, terror, terrorism, terrorist, test, test, testify, testimony, testing, text, text, textbook, texture,
then,
thank, thankfully, thanks, thanks, that,
that, the,
theater, theatrical, theft,
there,
theirs,
them,
theme,
themselves,
then, theology, theoretical,
theory,
therapist,
Therapy.
there, thereafter,
thereby,
therefore, thesis, they, thick, thief, thin, thing, think,
Thinking.
third, thirsty, 13, 30, this, thorough,
thoroughly,
though, thought, thought-provoking, thoughtful,
1,000.
thread, threat,
Threaten.
3,
threshold,
thrilled, thrive, throat, through, throughout, throw, thumb,
Thursday,
thus, ticket, tide,
Tidy. Tidy.
tie, tight, tighten, till, timber, time, timely, timing, tin, tiny, tip, tired, tissue,
Title. Title.
tobacco, today, toe, together, toilet, tolerance, tolerate, toll, tomato, tomorrow, ton, tone, tongue, tonight, ton, two, tool, tooth, top, topic, torture, toss, total, totally, touch, tough,
tour,
tourism, tourist, tournament, towards, towel, tower, town, toxic, toy, trace, track, trade, trademark, trading, tradition, traditional, traffic, tragedy, tragic, trail, trailer, train,
Trainer.
training, trait, transaction, transcript, transfer, transform, transformation, transit, transition, translate, translation, transmission, transmit, transparency, transparent, transport, transportation, trap, trauma,
Travel.
traveler, treasure, treat, treatment, treaty, tree,
tremendous, trend,
Trial.
tribal, tribe,
tribunal,
tribute, trick, trigger, trillion, trio, trip, triumph, troop, trophy, tropical,
Trouble.
troubled,
Trousers.
truck, true, truly, trust, trustee, truth, try, tsunami, tube,
Tuesday,
tuition, tune,
Tunnel.
turn, turnout, turnover,
TV.
12,
20,
twice, twin, twist, two, type,
Typical. Typically. Tire. Ugly.
ultimately, umbrella,
Unable.
unacceptable,
uncertainty, uncle,
Uncomfortable.
unconscious, undergo, undergraduate,
Underground.
underlying,
undermine,
Understand.
understanding, undertake, underwear, undoubtedly,
Unemployed.
unemployment,
Unexpected.
unfair, unfold, unfortunate,
unfortunately, unhappy, uniform, unify,
Union.
unique, unit, unite, united, unity, universal, universe, university, unknown, unless, unlike, unlikely, unnecessary, unpleasant, unprecedented, until, until, unusual,
unveil, up, upcoming, update,
update,
upgrade,
upgrade,
uphold,
upon,
upper,
upset,
upstairs, upstairs, upwards, urban,
urge, urgent,
us,
usage, use, used, used to,
useful,
useless,
user,
usual, usually,
utility, utilize,
Utterly.
vacation,
vacuum,
vague, valid, validity,
valley,
valuable,
value, value,
van, vanish, variable, variation, varied,
variety, various, vary,
Vast. Vegetable.
vehicle,
Vain. Venture. Venue. Verbal. Verdict. Verify. Verse. Version.
versus,
Vertical. Very. Vessel. Veteran.
via,
Viable. Vibrant. Vice. Vicious. Victim. Victory. Video. View. Viewer. Viewpoint. Village. Villager. Violate. Violation. Violence. Violent. Virtual. Virtue.
virus, visa, visible, vision, visit, visitor, visual, vital, vitamin, vocal, voice, volume, voluntary, volunteer, vote, voting, vow, vulnerability, vulnerable, wage, wait, waiter, wake, walk,
wall, wander,
want,
war, ward, warehouse, warfare, warm, warming, warn,
warning,
warrant, warrior, wash,
washing, waste, watch,
water,
wave, way, weak, weaken,
weakness,
wealth,
wealthy, weapon,
wear,
weather,
weave, web, website,
wedding,
Wednesday,
weed, week,
weekend,
weekly, way, weight, weird,
welcome,
welfare,
well-being,
west,
western,
Wet.
what, whatever,
whatsoever,
Wheat. Wheel.
when, whenever,
Where.
whereas, whereby, wherever,
Whether. Which. While. Whilst. Whip. Whisper. White. Who. Whoever. Whole. Holy. Whom. Whose. Why. Wide. Widely. Widen.
widespread,
Widow.
width,
Wife. Wild. Wildlife. Willing. Willingness. Win. Wind. Wind. Window. Wine. Wing.
winner,
Winter. Wipe. Wire. Wisdom. Wise. Wish. Wit.
with, withdraw, withdrawal, within, without,
witness,
Woman.
wonder, wonderful,
wood,
wooden,
wool, word, work,
worker,
workforce,
working,
workout, workplace, workshop, world,
worldwide,
worm, worried,
worry,
worse, worship, worst, worth, worthwhile, worthy,
would,
wound, wow, wrap, wrist, right,
writer, writing, written,
wrong, yard, yeah, year, yell,
yellow,
yes,
yesterday,
yet, yield,
yeah,
young, youngster,
yours,
yourself, youth,
0,